We'll now head to the U.S. for our continued coverage of the 2024 U.S. elections. A recent ledger poll published by the New York Post reveals that U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump and Democratic candidate Kamala Harris are locked in a close race ahead of Tuesday's election, with each securing 49% support. Only 2% of respondents indicated they would vote for another candidate. Both Trump and Harris are viewed as equally capable of enhancing America's quality of life, each receiving a 44% approval rating. However, Trump leads Harris in terms of a clarity of his economic strategy, with 45% support compared to Harris's 42%. The poll conducted between 31 October, that's the 31st of October, and the 3rd November amongst 950 likely voters has a margin of error of 3 points. The New York Post, owned by Rupert Murdoch, Murdoch's News Corporation, endorsed Trump for president in late October. And now to discuss this and give us an overview of the U.S. elections, its process and also preparations, we are joined by two individuals. Professor Christopher Isike, Director, African Center for the Study of United States and University of Pretoria, and Councillor Lade Hephzibah Olugbemi, Councillor of West Thames Mead in the Royal Bureau of Greenwich. You're welcome, lady and gentlemen. Good to have you here. All right,
thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Let's go ladies first, shall we, if you do not mind, Professor Isike. I'd like to ask Councillor Lade, can you provide us an overview of the U.S. election process, first of all, including the key steps for primary elections to the general elections? I'm hoping that
I'm actually
Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me very clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yes. So the system is very much different from what we have in the UK. So in the UK, our election system is that we have our various political parties. Within the various political parties, you do what you call a long listing. A long listing is where the various candidates put themselves forward. And then within the party, there's a short listing. The short listing is when you have shortlisted the candidates that initially presented themselves, and then there's a voting about within the party on who the successful candidates will be that they're going to put forward, either at the national level or the local government level. And of course, we have the mayoral election as well. It's something very similar that you have in US, where of course we know the battle within the Republican and the Democratic Party. And of course, we know that eventually Trump was selected, or he got through the long list and he was shortlisted. And of course, Kamala Harris was as well. So it's both of them against each other. But one key thing, which is very different from UK and US, is the fact that the balloting system is very different. They have what you call the key battleground states. And these are states that you call the swing states. And there's an electoral strategy that they have. We probably will delve into that a little bit more further when we start to talk. But that in a nutshell, because I could go on and on to tell you about what the electoral process is, but that in a nutshell is how it works.
Yes, indeed.
So where we're at the moment, is the election for the president. But one key thing to recognize is that the election tomorrow is not just for the president, because we have about 16 states as well that will be electing their various governors as well. So tomorrow is quite key. But that in a nutshell is the electoral system, if I was going to just abbreviate.
Yeah, you've done very good abbreviation, but I still want more from you, Councillor Lade, because I need you to tell us about this early voting system we hear about, and also mail-in voting. It's very strange to us here in Nigeria. So if you would please continue and explain that to us as well.
Fantastic. We have something similar here in UK as well, what we call the postal vote. So obviously, to be able to make sure that we capture all of the, to get the representation of all of the residents, all of the electorate, it's allowed in some areas where I think up to about 4 weeks before the election date, people can. And I'm glad that what you're showing on the screen is where they're already counting the vote. So, for example, we've just had a general election here in the UK. And I know that about 2 weeks before, a week before, we were already getting the feelers of who was leading from the postal vote. This is mainly to recognize that there's some areas where the voting centers might be a bit far off. And you know how wide America is. America is massive, massive ground. So there's just the need to make sure that every single resident in every constituent, we could use the word constituent here in UK, that you're able to get across to them. Then those who might not be able to physically go out to vote on the day, so they'll be allowed to post their vote. So, and the postal vote sometimes takes a long while. Obviously, like I said, in America is quite large. So by the time the post gets there, it might take a while. It might take, it might take a while. It might take 1 week, 2 weeks, depending. And that's why they allow the postal vote to start way before the election day itself.
All right, thank you very much. Professor Christopher, let's come to you and ask about strategy. Now, we've seen plenty of strategy being utilized in the processes leading up to the elections. We saw Trump, his heavy rhetorics on immigration, religion. Kamala Harris only just switched from Trump bashing back to a message of hope. So exactly what kind of strategies reach what kind of people, especially with regards to these elections?
Well, the U.S. system is very complex, like my other panelists did say. And in these particular elections, we've seen deep polarizations, between Democrats and Republicans. And you would think that the leader of the free world, that is at the vanguard of promoting democracy in the world, would frown at, a character like Donald Trump, winning a primary tickets, talk less of being a top contender for a presidential race. So the issue, therefore, is that maybe character is not such an issue. What then is the issue? There are several explanations to all of this, but it appears that there is been a culture war, between educated and non-educated, Americans. Traditionally educated Americans have always been Democrats, and a lot of people see themselves as those that are non-educated. I'm talking about those who don't have college degrees now, see themselves in Trump in terms of his mannerisms, in speaking directly and addressing the issues that they want to hear, and in even making promises that many of them know he will not keep. But I'm just happy to hear those promises, mentioned. And so that is what I think best explains, the fact that you have someone who is a convicted felon, a twice impeached president, and with as vulgar as he is, everyone says, "Oh, we don't want our children to be like Trump. He's not going to be a good example for our children," but yet they would vote for him. So it goes beyond the economy, because if you look at the economy right now, the economy is the best recovered economy from COVID all over the world. It's the indicators are very strong. People may not be feeling the impact now, but somehow people are glossing over that. Of course, there are issues with immigration. However, it's not just the policies that have driven support for someone like Trump. So there is a much more deeper issue that one needs to explore, and that's why I'm talking about, culture. And this is the reason why, I will stop after this. This is the reason why Trump's message has been kind of simple, even though he has deviated for them. Simple around Kamala Harris has broken it. I'll fix it. I'll fix immigration. I will get the economy to work again. I will get America to be the greatest country in the world. I will stop the wars. There will be no conflict in the world under my presidency. Those are simple messages that he's able to communicate sometimes to his base, and they are right by it. Whereas the Democrats on the other side are not able to articulates a simple message in that manner that people can actually understand.
Okay.
Of course, in the last couple of days, she has stopped talking about Trump and focused more on the kind of policies she wants to support.
Professor Christopher, thank you very much. Now, I'm going to put a pin in it here for both of you. We're going to go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation, especially when it comes to the sentiments of the wider America now regarding the Trump rhetorics. We'll be back. Do stay tuned. There's plenty coming your way after this. Welcome back, and welcome back into the conversation as we were having from before on the final hours leading up to the U.S. elections. I have with me here Professor Christopher Isike, Director, Africa Center for the Study of United States, University of Pretoria, from South Africa, and of course, Councillor Lade Hephzibah Olugbemi, yes, Councillor for West Thamesmead in the Royal Bureau of Greenwich. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Professor Christopher, you said something, and I'd like Councillor Lade to actually react to this regarding the sentiments that Trump actually pushes through for these elections and the people that actually his supporters. It's a very slim margin between him and Harris, but it gives you an idea of the number of people that have or share the same sentiment. So what does that say now, Councillor Lade, for the phrase "America, land of the free"?
Okay. One thing that a lot of people are surprised about is the fact that, and I like what Professor said earlier, how did Trump, an ex-convict, once impeached, or is it twice impeached, how did he win the primaries? It's a very big question. We need to understand that Trump understands the electorate. He understands the people of America. And he's been able to drop the right words. And that's why he's been able to gather all of the support. And he's absolutely surprised a lot of people who have been following this election. Who would have thought that Trump would get to the States? Even the last time, the last election, nobody thought Trump was going to get there, but he got there. And one of the key things we need to recognize that these are the top issues in the ballot. And that is what he has addressed.
Okay.
He's talking about the economy.
All right. I would love to let you continue, but we're almost out of time, and I really want to pass one more question to Professor Christopher regarding the elections here. Now, Professor, there was plenty of campaign financing, and we saw Elon Musk actually have a very interesting take on the finance or on financing generally. I was wondering if that in any way influenced the Trump supporters.
Yeah, so one of the ways of financing elections in America is the super PAC, the super political action committees that enable super rich people like Elon Musk, to funnel huge sums of monies to funding political party activities like he's doing now in the US. But he's been put on notice that the recent antic of giving $1 million to people who register for a course that is aligned to the election could border on election integrity challenges, and that he could be charged. Even though he has carried on unscathed, it speaks to some of the challenges of political party funding in America and the role that dark money groups play in determining outcomes and elections and outcomes for policies in the United States.
All right. Well, thank you very much for keeping that brief. I want to say thank you very much to you, Professor Christopher Isike, and also Councillor Lade Hephzibah. Thank you for joining us this evening and giving us your own share of opinion. Thank you.